with Pacific Mornings.
Maloni, it's currently 36 past 7. Welcome back to Pacific Mornings. I'm Ala Vailala. Now, last month, the government announced a major shift in the way it collects information about people in Aotearoa, scrapping the traditional 5-yearly census and moving to a new model based on administrative data and smaller surveys. Stats NZ says it'll save money and improve data quality over time, but Pacific data experts are sounding the alarm. Joining us now is Malai Tongia Dr. Jacinta Fa'alili-Fidow, a member of the Pacific Data Sovereignty Network, to break down and explain why the shift could have a long-lasting impact on Pacific well-being. Taia manuia, Dr. Jacinta Fa'alili-Fidow, how are you this morning?
Aotearoa, thank you for the invitation. A bit early in the morning, but great to be here.
It's great to have you. Now, you've warned that shifting to admin data risks making Pacific populations invisible. What does that mean in real terms?
Yeah, so I guess for those of our listeners who aren't familiar with admin data is really just when you visit the doctors, if you attend an education institute here in Aotearoa, they collect your data. It goes into a centralized data system. And uh, instead of the survey, they'll be utilizing any data about you across the government to reflect, I guess, Pacific peoples in Aotearoa. So on the one hand, while that sounds efficient, and hence the move, because running a census every 5 years is very expensive. So that's one of the rationale to move to admin data first. But I guess the issue here is we don't collect all the data that we collect in a survey. So in a survey, there's a lot of important data around social and cultural measures. So even just your ability to speak a language, what your religious affiliation is, and even data about, I guess, households. Some of that will have to be extrapolated by the data that you have that exists currently, but it's definitely not as accurate as you get when you fill out a census. So hence some of the concerns we have.
Hmm. Now, can you give examples of where Pacific people are currently misrepresented or left out in existing data sets?
Yeah, so I guess one of the issues we have is that not all people utilize services that are currently available, all our Pacific people. There's also, I guess, some of that is to do with trust, some of it just, for multiple reasons, people don't always access the services that are available to them. But also you have, for example, Pacific Perspectives put out a wonderful report that demonstrated that cancer screening, for example, so cancer screening often we're represented as having the highest levels of screening when in fact we don't. What this means is um, when you go to invest in cancer screening services, there is an underinvestment to try and capture Pacific women in cancer screening and Pacific peoples. So I guess this is that's one example, but there's multiple. There's just multiple examples where if we were to dig down, you could see that we just aren't capturing data as accurately as we want to.
Hmm. Now, with Pacific communities projected to make up 11% of Aotearoa's population in the next 18 years, what needs to happen now to ensure they're seen and supported?
So there's definitely talk of improving our admin data systems over time, but having sat on the evaluation panel last year, this is going to take a long time. And so in the meantime, uh, we really do need to be thinking of ways to capture, if we are going to remove the census, of capturing our Pacific peoples where they are, kind of even just if we aren't accessing the services, what are some other ways we can go out and survey? So there is talk of other surveys that will be run alongside admin data, but we haven't got a lot of information about that at the moment. And so it's important that we have governance, Pacific peoples in governance, Pacific people advising on what these next steps are. because if we participate in some of these processes, we will be able to advocate and give advice and information about the best way to capture.
Hmm. Now, what would a Pacific centered approach to data collection actually look like?
Yeah, so I guess there have been attempts in our past surveys to have people within our communities who are already engaged with our communities to go out and reach families who traditionally would not engage in surveys, but also just through, for example, some of our church communities, church groups, wherever we congregate as communities, just to promote the census. So I guess in the in-between times, we can continue to work with these community champions. We can continue to work with people who are already well engaged, throughout our diverse communities. And we're not just talking churches, we're talking within school groups, within even sports groups. These are different sort of community settings that many of our Pacific families engage with.
And just sticking with like communities, trust has been a big issue in previous census efforts. What drives that mistrust and how do we rebuild it?
Again, I think it's just the fact that there has been limited participation of Pacific peoples, and where there is participation, um, there hasn't been always the best response. So um, I guess some of that trust will be improved if Pacific peoples, if they see themselves in a lot of these systems, um, and also if there is a real-time response. And where equity is definitely a value in a lot of these sectors and systems, you've seen a better response. But I think Pacific peoples really do need to, I guess, take some of these leadership roles and be involved, because if we don't, we'll just find this exponential, disproportionate burden on our communities.
Hmm. Now, for some people who might be worried about how the information is stored and shared, what would genuine Pacific community consent look like, especially when it comes to data collection and use?
That's a great question, and that's something that we raised last year because I think there are still people out there who don't know how their data is being utilized. And so we would love for there to be um, some really good promotion, some really good talanoa across our communities to help people properly understand just how, when you visit a doctor, how your information is being utilized, when you engage with any of our public services, how that can also help with future investment back into our communities, how it can also, even with elections, it can help recognize where we are, and also just um, being able to input into the way the data is being used. And where there has been good participation, where there has been effective advocacy, we have seen things shift. We have seen the ability for us to go out and run things in our languages, run things within our different community settings. That has involved a lot of good people, voluntarily, I might add. Just being involved.
Hmm. And now you've called for Pacific leadership in the new census model. What would that look like in action and how could it lead to better outcomes?
Yeah, so there is talk of different governance structures. I mean, the CEs across the different ministries, some of them will be coming together too to talk about how the admin data itself, the admin structures, the way that they collect this data can be improved for Pacific peoples, and not just Pacific. I mean, there's the intersectionality too with disability, with also gender diversity. These are some of the things that will be considered, but there will definitely be technical advisory groups, expert advisory groups. Pacific need to be in there. There's also the Pacific Data Sovereignty Group. This is chaired by Ivan Tava, and just multiple ways, because even the members on this admin on this committee are involved either through the universities, through their own organizations, because data is everywhere. And even if you work in a sector that collects data from Pacific peoples, you too can be involved and help advocate to improve the way you collect data about Pacific peoples.
Mm. And what are the most urgent steps the government or Stats NZ could take to avoid sidelining Pacific communities before the 2030 transition?
Yeah, well, this is where I think they need to involve Pacific, Pacific Data Sovereignty. There's also a Ministry for Pacific Peoples, I guess, key organization for us. There is already talk of, say, a Pacific Data Wellbeing Framework. And this is really important because well-being from a Pacific holistic perspective is a little bit different from the way that it's described in a mainstream setting. So that's really key. And I guess even the way that admin data is collected across the different sectors, there really does need to be an improvement there that needs to be done, with immediate effect.
And finally, what else are you working on that connects to this kaupapa or strengthens Pacific data futures?
Well, I guess if we're talking about data, the next big wave is AI. And so our, PDS has brought together quite a few Pacific AI experts and Māori AI experts to kind of explain the landscape. So there is a report coming out. It was funded by Te Titoki Mataori, the Auckland Bioengineering Institute. And some of the work that needs to be done is also, is urgent. And we'd love for more Pacific peoples to be involved, to understand the landscape, to know what needs to be done so that we don't get left behind. And also we can think about what some of the concerns are with AI. There's already a lot of concern, but some of the experts are sounding the alarm on that as well.
And can I just also have your thoughts on the recent AI strategy that the government just put out? I believe it's New Zealand's first AI strategy. What are your thoughts on it?
I think it's a great start that we have one. I think that for Pacific, however, even if Pacific isn't going to be a priority group for any of our AI sectors, and there are good people who are working in AI, like Madeline Newman, who is the CEO of the AI Forum, who are definitely advocating for Pacific and including Pacific in their leadership. Even if they aren't, Pacific peoples need to be involved. And so the strategies, I think, is something that was put in place because we needed one, but there's lots of areas for improvement. And I think for us, one of the key things is Pacific leadership and participation. We need to be building things ourselves. We need to be thinking about some great models that even if they aren't invested in by government, our businesses need to be involved, our enterprise sector, because we will be left behind if we don't start. And we have great people like Aotearoa from Fibre
Mm.
Fale, Amy Dove at Deloitte, who you must get on to speak about this.
Mm. Thank you so much. And yes, I absolutely agree. We had Etiro on the show last week and she pretty much touched on the same points that you did.
Yeah.
Whawhitai tele lava malai tongia Dr. Jacinta Fa'alili-Fidow. Thank you so much for our talanoa this morning. It's been really, really valuable.
Oh, no, thank you so much for the invitation.
Always lovely to have you on the
Really
show. Now
awesome.
that was Malai Tongia, Dr. Jacinta Fa'alili-Fidow. She's a member of the Pacific Data Sovereignty Network. If you missed any part of that talanoa, the full interview will be uploaded to our 531PI Facebook page.